We're going to get into the legal and political implications right now, and there are many on both fronts. CBS 2 political reporter Marcia Kramer is here. So is Hofstra law professor James Sample. Before we get into all that, first I want to get your reactions. What do you think, Marcia?
I was actually surprised that they convicted on all 34 counts. I had a feeling that they might split the baby in half and maybe acquit on some and convict on some, but clearly the prosecution did a good job in their minds of building a case and having proof of everything that Michael Cohen was going to then testify to. So there was a carefully built case. So I thought that because they did it that way, that they would probably go for a conviction.
So even though he wasn't the most reliable witness, you're saying
they backed up everything before he ever got on the stand. They had witnesses that corroborated everything he was going to say. So when he finally got on the stand, and even they tried to shake his credibility, you had other witnesses who were credible who backed him everything that he said.
Yeah, Professor, what do you think?
I think what Marcia said is spot on, and I think that the prosecution really bookended the testimony by starting with David Pecker and ending with Michael Cohen. They were able to essentially prime the jury to hear that what Michael Cohen was saying when he was testifying was something that they'd already heard, was something that they'd already seen in the physical documentary evidence. The jury had already seen the document with Alan Weisselberg's handwriting saying, gross this up, which you wouldn't do if you were paying for legal services. You would only do that if you were reimbursing somebody for a payment that they had made on your behalf.
So corroboration.
Corroborate.
When it comes to an appeal here, what is that going to look like going forward from the Trump team?
Well, the Trump team is certainly prepared for an appeal. It's going to take time. The first thing that's going to happen is that Donald Trump is going to have to meet with a probation officer who will begin the process of preparing a pre-sentencing report. Then there'll be the sentencing. But the appeals process, it goes through the New York State court system. So it'll go to the appellate division, then it would go to the New York Court of Appeals. I don't see an issue here that could go to the U.S. Supreme Court. It is conceivable that there's a due process concern that could be raised in a cert petition. I mean, they can certainly raise that. I think it'd be a bit of a Hail Mary. It will take time, Maurice.
But what grounds are they appealing on?
Well, certainly there are some legal grounds that, you know, this was a relatively unprecedented case in terms of the way it was framed. Falsification of business records is a case that the New York District Attorney's Office brings all the time. That part's common. Elevating it to a felony is relatively common. Elevating it to felonies on the bases that these misdemeanors were elevated to felonies, the unlawful means, that's complex. It's a case of first impression. It's certainly a case involving a unique defendant, and those complexities will be areas that the defense will try and probe for their appeals.
By the way, I just want to make a point to you. It's not going to stop Donald Trump from trying to go to the Supreme Court,
of course,
where he already has a very strong conservative majority.
But what does it say that this was decided in a day and a half and all 34 counts? To appeal something that was that decisive would seem to be a real uphill climb.
Well, they're certainly not going to be able to appeal the factual basis. I mean, the jury factual findings are secure. The only legal basis for an appeal would be questions about the underlying law. And, you know, there's all this talk. Donald Trump talks about a rigged system.
He said it was rigged. He said it was a disgrace. He also said that they wanted a venue change at the very beginning of this. So he's bringing that up as well.
Right. But this is the thing. These were 12 jurors, and that's after the grand jury phase of citizens found that there were sufficient bases to bring the charges. Then you had 12 citizens of New York who heard the evidence. They were there for 5 weeks. They heard the evidence. They heard the testimony. They read the documents. They were careful and considerate. And even in the readbacks that we got yesterday and this morning from the court, an indication of a level of care. This is not a Joe Biden. Joe Biden has no control over the New York District Attorney's Office. That's Alvin Bragg. Alvin Bragg brought this case, and 12 jurors, American citizens, did their duty after 5 weeks of listening to this case. They're the ones who made these findings.
Now, what about the politics, Marcia? A lot of people are going to love this in a blue state. A lot of people are going to hate this, not just here, but across the country.
See, I think it's going to take some time for all of this to settle in and for people to decide what it means to them. But the key thing I think you have to realize is that politically in the presidential campaign, there are 7 battleground states, and that's where everybody's going to put their firepower. And one thing that CBS News polling has shown that in 3 of the battleground states, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Michigan, they found out that about pre-verdict, that about 15% of the people there said that they might change their mind if he was convicted. Now, if that holds true, or if more people decide to change their mind once it sinks in that he's been convicted, that could give a real chance to President Biden and the Democratic team to come forward.
When you say change their mind, away from Trump?
Away
Trump
from
supporters
Trump
go away from him if he's convicted?
So if you take a look at some of the recent polling in the 7 battleground states, Trump was ahead, as my recollection, in about 5 of the 7, Biden in 2. But now there's wiggle room, and there's wiggle room that could give President Biden an in. It really is going to depend on how they pitch their campaign and how they decide to spend their campaign dollars. So we have to wait and see. But I do think that this is going to be something that's going to be highly contested. And Trump, by the way, is not going to go away silently.
No.
And he's going to be going there and saying the same things that we heard him say today. Witch hunt, rigged trial, Biden justice, all the things that he's been saying, he's going to say over and over and over again, because he believes one thing: rage sells, rage gets voters to the polls.
Grievance.
And so if he can get his people enraged and get them to go to the polls, that's the key.
The fundraising that has begun already.
Are you kidding?
Can you read us some of that?
Well, I mean, basically calls himself a, hold on a second.
It went out just minutes before he came to the microphone.
It went out, by the way, at 5:21.
And he spoke at 5:23.
So, I mean, he was obviously wasting no time. I think, obviously, he had already... give me 1 second to find it.
But Marcia, as you look at that, he was also bringing up the big issues that are facing our nation, and also that are vital to the voters, and that is the economy, the border. You know, people can't even pay for their grocery bills, mortgage rates. He was already bringing that up today, and it appeared to be deflecting from what happened downtown.
Well, I think what he's trying to do is also change the debate. Instead of him being a convicted felon, he wants to say, what about the economy? What about what's happening at the border? What about the migrant crisis? Things that people care about. But what it says here, breaking from Trump, I am a political prisoner. And he says, stand with Trump. I was just convicted in a rigged political witch hunt, and I did nothing wrong. I could go on, but it's the same thing. It's a campaign fundraising letter. He's wasting no time, because he really believes that this is the kind of thing that will get his voters to the polls. You know, turnout is everything.
Right.
And those claims by Donald Trump's campaign, not the truth. I just want to say.
No,
exactly.
This is his campaign.
Right.
You know, his.
How do you think that's going to land?
I think it's too early to tell. You know, there are people in his camp that really believe what he says, and then there are others who may want to take a step back and say, let me see how this plays out. Remember, he's going to be behaving however he's going to behave between now and the sentencing, and we have to wait and see how that happens.
Yeah, Professor, I'm wondering, this case was said to be the weakest of all the cases to be brought against Donald Trump. It went out, and in a day and a half, it was a slam dunk, if I may say that. So what do you make of the other cases going forward?
Well, the strongest case is the one that actually gets brought, as it turns out, right? I mean, the other cases, you know, Jack Smith has tried to bring them, but they're lodged, you know, the classified documents have been stalled by Judge Eileen Cannon. The January 6th case is essentially in a holding pattern right now because of the immunity appeal that has been at least successful in running out the clock, not necessarily successful on the merits. We don't have a decision from the Supreme Court. And then, of course, Georgia, the Fani Willis scenario created some delays. And so, in a sense, at this point, sometimes the strongest case you have is the one that you can actually get to trial, the one you can put before a jury, and that's what happened here.
But I also think you need to point one other thing out, and that is that this, because of the appeal process and everything else, may be the only trial that happens before the election on November 5th.
Right.
What about jail time? I don't think we've discussed that yet. Cy Vance said there's really, in his mind, there's no chance that Trump will see jail time.
I think it's highly, highly unlikely. He's a first-time offender. He's in his 70s, and he's one of the most well-known figures on the planet. He's not going anywhere. He's pretty easy to keep track of. I don't think that he will end up serving time for these offenses. But it is notable. You know, you think about the last 13 months, found liable in civil cases for sexual abuse with E. Jean Carroll, found liable for defamation of E. Jean Carroll, found liable in the civil case for business fraud, you know, almost $500 million in civil judgments. But these felony findings take things to a different level. There's a difference between civil and criminal. And today, for the first time, a former president was convicted of felony criminal convictions.
There's
And
one
we
other
will
point
see.
I should really make to you, and that is this, that given the politics of it, they could sentence him to home confinement. And if they do that, that could have a big effect on his ability to campaign.
Just a couple seconds here, Professor. What did you think of the judge's performance throughout?
The judge was in such a difficult position,
Extremely.
Maurice, and yet all the people who seriously observed, not the rhetoric on the outside, not the claims and attacks, but the people who seriously observed this case, he made rulings that were favorable to both sides. Do you don't think the prosecutors wanted to play the actual Access Hollywood tape? I guarantee they wanted to play that tape.
Right.
They were allowed to introduce a transcript of it. They couldn't play the tape. The judge was measured, he was careful, he was balanced, and the jury really, really looked to him.
What grade do you give him?
An A+.
A+. Okay.
Marcia
Professor?
Kramer, Professor James Sample, thank you both for your insight and
Historic
comments.
day. We're trying to catch our breath here. The former president found guilty on all 34 counts. Coverage continues next on the CBS Evening News.